Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're joined now by His Excellency Professor Soludo, Governor of Anambra State. Good morning, Prof, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Whom am I speaking with? Is that not Shehu? Certainly, that's not the voice.
No, this is Chamberlain here. There's Nota here. There's Ayo in Lagos, Booking in Lagos as well. So we're all here and ready to roll.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Prof.
Good
I know
morning.
that your ears are full. I mean, we've been also inundated about this trip of governors to Rwanda. Some say, well, there's extra code of support staff of $3,000 each. There's extra code for governors of $10,000, and it keeps going on. So perhaps start by telling us, I mean, what informs this trip to Rwanda for the governors?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And let me also start by acknowledging and thanking the UNDP, and the Secretariat of Nigerian Governors Forum for making this happen. They, after a cohort of new governors come into office, they usually organize retreats for them, just trying to bring everybody, to sing from the same hymn book and thinking that we all have one country, one economy to govern, and a collective responsibility to move Nigeria forward. We've had that retreat at the beginning, but I think they thought it was also important as we grapple with some of the issues that are also cross-border and thinking about Pan-Africanist approach to matters, that it was important that we also have this kind of retreat in another African country that has some of the nuggets of the issues that we are dealing with. A small country relative to Nigeria, but in terms of geographic size and the economy, but which has been able to pull itself up from total ruins 29 years ago, genocide, everything destroyed, pull itself up to a point now it's considered about the cleanest city in the world, and almost a city with zero crime, clean, green, plant, and the world has come to notice and being cited everywhere all over the world. Proud that that is an African country, an African success story, a Black African country. And we thought that it was also as part of this whole African, the Renaissance Africa, thinking about one region, one people, that we need to have this peer learning experience. So let me be clear. Within the Governors Forum, we have peer review mechanisms. We learn from each other. Within the various states, we have our retreats. I've had mine with my EXCO, the members of my executive. I just finished one about 2 weeks ago where we have, I learned, this is the first, I don't know where else it has happened, the entire executive branch and the entire legislative branch locked into a room for 2 days, trying to forge a common front as one people moving on. But then a time comes also when, like I said, this is Africa. Some of us who are Pan-Africanists, who are still dreaming about the United States of Africa, believe that we need to learn one way or the other from each other. And let me also tell you, my dear brothers, as a Nigerian, Nigeria cannot afford to be provincial in thought and outlook and expect to lead Africa or lead the world. You need to open the doors. Even when we were little kids, in the neighborhood, in the villages, you do often hear parents admonish their children, go to that your neighbor, see that younger one, the child that is 10 years older than you, see what he's doing. Yeah, that is all part of it. I'm a professor, but I'm a lifetime student. Leaders must continuously learn. You learn from the up, you learn from below, you learn from the sides. even the smallest, the most people you consider irrelevant and so on and so forth, you need to learn. So the first thing is to state that I thank UNDP for facilitating this. All expenses paid. Nobody gave anybody any penny. Do I say unfortunately? I wish there was something to give to us and so on. But we're very, eternally very grateful as part of his agenda to bring Africa together, to think Africa, solve our problems, and if we can improve the leadership, then the mission of UNDP gets accomplished much easier, and which is to deliver development to the poorest of the poor people. And the lessons we learned there, the aha moments for these governors that we had was quite very, very beneficial. It wasn't for any pecuniary benefit, and I'm pretty sure many of my colleagues who had that experience found that everybody went away with nuggets of, aha, this is something, felt quite challenged, if you like. Maybe that is the word. Felt challenged to want to do something fundamentally differently, because in many ways, many of our states are comparable, whether in terms of size. Some of our states are even far bigger, many times bigger than Rwanda. Many of our states, in terms of economic size, far bigger than Rwanda. But guess what? This country is on the world map, and it's our brother there. And so this is, in my view, this is part of the Pan-Africanist agenda, and that we need to stand by each other, learn from each other. Of course, it's not to learn everything. I mean, pick everything. You pick the ones that work and discount the ones that wouldn't. So,
okay,
absolutely, yes.
Yes, Prof. So, I mean, quite a number of people we've spoken to say nothing wrong in training and learning from African brothers. Fantastic. But they just thought that, considering that the times that we are in and the impression that they have of this, they ask, is it that if we had that training in this country and the facilitators come to this country, probably with NIPS and several other agencies pulling together, will the governors not have had the same aha moment?
My brother, we have a proverb in my place, and I will say it in Igbo, and I will tell you that in English, for you, maybe you need a translator. I said, no, onye njem, aka onye isi awọ ama ihe. Translated literally, the one who travels around ends up being wiser than the gray-haired man sitting in one place. There is never a right moment. And every moment is a right moment to learn, to be able to get around and visit the cleanest, smallest, short city in Africa, a country that has been able to deal in many parts of this country today, the issues about ethnic, interethnic, and interreligious tensions. We've just come through an electioneering period, and with all the religious and ethnic tensions still to heal, in some places in this country, you might say they're almost at a tipping point. And you have a country that has been able to go through all of this, went through a genocide, that you had 1 million people killed in 100 days, and visiting that genocide memorial, where some of us had occasions to shed tears, and to be able to reflect back in our own country, what could be? What if we allow ourselves to get to this point? This is what people actually went through, or going through to see the Kigali Innovation City. And people begin to compare that to what they are doing and how they could do better. And then the networks of some other people that you can see, they say, is believing. And such moments that, you can go to anywhere and get in a classroom, get people to come and give you a lecture. But that moment when you step out and you walk the streets and see how squeaky clean they are, green, and see the conscientious effort of the people trying to get things done. And that moment when we had a talk when a 17-year-old, 27-year-old lady who was the tour guide in the bus was asked by one of our colleagues, so which one is your tribe? And she retorted and said, in Rwanda, we don't talk about tribes. I am a Rwandan. There's no Tutsi, there's no Hutu. We are all Rwandans. This is not what you get somebody coming to give you a lecture, 20 hours, 200. And I think for a lot of our colleagues, those moments where we visited several other things, which you are trying to do yourself, or you have done, or even done better, but seeing what others have done. I go back to that proverb. You see, when you travel, when you meet others, compare experience, good or big or small, relevant or irrelevant. The reason we keep learning, and like I said, I keep reading every day, trying to learn one thing or the other. I don't think I know up to 1% of what I think I need to know. So for me, it was quite an ennobling moment, and a moment to appreciate ourselves as Africans. A country, small country of that nature, they now have a visa on arrival for our fellow African countries, and so on and so on.
Yes, so, if I may interrupt you here, I was going to ask you a question, as in, can just one trip, indeed, travel is education. And I was going to ask you, can one trip make that difference? But I chose to take it from this side. So you've gone in there, you've seen the things you've seen, and as you said, some of you actually shared some tears. So let me ask you, what 3 decisions from what you saw there did you make, and what difference would that make in what you're doing in Anambra State?
Very, very many. In fact, let me tell you, if I could afford it, unfortunately, we can't. If I could afford it, part of the things we had declared in Anambra is to have a clean, green, and sustainable Anambra. We've declared that as an agenda of this government, to be one of, some of the, if not the cleanest state in Nigeria, but even among in the world. And we are dealing with that head on, cleaning and clearing the places. If I had resources, to be honest with you, in addition to what we are doing, the plan that we're doing, I would have been able to send even my team on environment, managing the environment. For example, Anambra's existential threat is the environment. I said that in my manifesto, and we know that. We have the second smallest landmass after Lagos. But unlike Lagos, Lagos is reclaiming land via the Atlantic, reclaiming some land. We are losing land through gully erosion. We are the gully erosion capital of the world, and then flooding that encumbers even much of what we have. And so environment is key, but this is a small country, small landmass that has been able, hills all over, 1,000 hills all over, that has been able to manage to choreograph its environment consistent with this topography. Beautiful. And if I had a chance, for example, I'm just using this particular one that is so very important to my state, almost an existential threat. I would have loved to send a few of my key persons managing our environment, dealing with the issue about clean and green, sustainable Anambra initiative, to go there and spend a few days, interacting with officials who are making this happen. How come that you don't find even a drop of what we call pure water sachets anywhere? And everywhere looks as if it's cleaned every minute. I'd like them to, yeah.
Your Excellency, interesting that what you had already set out in your agenda as a governor is what you went to see on the other side in Rwanda, and you want to follow up on that if you had the resources. But let's step back a bit and look at how Rwanda, the Rwandan government, use the resources they have, the human resources they have, and the physical resources they have to change their environment and even mindsets. I mean, you talked about asking someone, what's your tribe? And she says, in Rwanda, we don't talk tribe. We are Rwandans. And that's one of the issues we had here, which you mentioned, coming from the elections. the issue of ethno-religious differences and the fault lines in Nigeria. But in Anambra State, Anambra is rich in natural gas, crude, some say crude oil, bauxite, ceramic, and has an almost 100% arable land. May not be much, but almost 100% arable land Anambra State has. So if you have this amount of resources in Anambra State, mindset is another thing. You can't move the whole state to, or your aides, all of them, as you say, you can't afford it, to Rwanda to go and study. But there are institutions here or practical things that can be done. Would you and your governor colleagues seek to use your, how would you use the resources you have now to manage yourself so that issues of cutting cost of governance are taken out of the way and governance is brought to the people so that, like that 27-year-old, they can turn and say, I am an Anambrarian or I am a Nigerian and I'm not looking to go anywhere?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a long question, short question with a long answer. You have actually encapsulated the entire problems of Nigeria in that question and want us to deal with that in seconds. But let me say 1, 2, 3 things. The first is that, well, the examples you gave in terms of natural resource endowments, that's part of dysfunctional federalism. Where you have those natural resources here. We have gas, we have bits of oil and bits of some solid minerals. But guess what? The governor of Anambra, under our constitution, has nothing to do with them. They belong to the exclusive list, and that is the federal government, and so on. These are still what we need to do. I mean, just a footnote to that to remind you that natural resources and mineral resources are in the exclusive legislative list. And we're trying to, that's part of the national conversations that we need to have to think through and get back to what you might call the concept of competitive federalism, or a federalism that works, where those resources are translated to meaningful development for the people. Now, getting in terms of managing our human resources. Of course, there in Rwanda, they also benefited from global best practices, as it were. They talked to the world. They didn't lock up their doors and said, no, we are Rwandans. Nobody, no idea. We wouldn't listen to anybody. You wouldn't even know. Nobody tells you where they picked some ideas from. Who were the ones that actually advised on some other things and so on and so forth. It's when you get it right, and people come to learn what you've done. In Anambra here, we've got a formidable team that is every day, we're benchmarking to our peers here in Nigeria, we're benchmarking to the world and benchmarking to Africa. The important thing is to deliver dividends to our people. Cost of governance, it dawned on us. I've spoken about this before, various fora, and even us as governors, we talk to ourselves about it, about, this cost of governance, to realize that this country is a very poor country. On per capita terms, we're very, very poor. If I take the entire budget of Anambra State, even the realizable revenue, not even just the entire budget, and share it to the entire population of about 8.5 million people, no single person will get more than 20,000 naira per year. And so it tells you how poor we are. And therefore, the need to manage in a very, very austere manner. I gave an illustration just of that. Here I drive in Austin and we try to, see my aquete here, local made, the shoes I wear, made here in Anambra, and so on and so forth. And here we are. I gave the example of us, when I came here, I met a situation where it was costing about 137 million naira to clean offices, facility management, a month, 137 million a month. But we cut it, and now it costs us 11 million naira to do the same job. And we're doing that all over the place. Everybody's asking me here, how are you getting the money? to do all the things you are doing. Total budget, I mean, realizable revenue, if you put it in dollar terms, is simply $100 and something million. Too minuscule. Share it by to 8.5 million people. And you see few dollars per person. And we can't afford to waste one of it. And it's not something you learn, it's something I have known and something we came into office doing. In fact, on my inaugural speech, I did promise my people that to spend 1 naira of Anambra's money, I have 2 questions. First is to ask myself, if this was my hard-earned money, will I spend it that way? And the second is, this money that the people driving keke napep or buses or in the markets contribute, is this the best way to use this money? And I can tell you those 2 questions continue to guide us every day in terms of resource management. Here, our motto is doing more with less. So we didn't have to go to lenders. We had that as well. But as you hear those things, you nod your head and say, at least it's a revalidation to you that you are on the right path. Better value for money and doing more with less. We're doing over 350 kilometers of road simultaneously, all the local governments. And people are asking me, how are you funding this? And I said, well, we've had to squeeze everything else almost to near zero to be able to deliver. And one of our templates is to ask for every expenditure we make, we're asking, what is the impact? How many people will benefit from this? Is it a few versus many? And so on and so forth. We keep getting a template of how we decide. So we didn't go to, we had how they did theirs. And for me, and for several of my colleagues, it was revalidation of that we are on the right path. And that is where to go, as it were. But like I said, we can never express gratitude enough to UNDP and the Secretariat of Nigerian Governance Forum. I wish even other donor agencies, I do say to them, the donor community, that the best thing you can do for Nigeria is not necessarily in terms of how much money you give, but even with the framework and helping us even to maximize the value for money expending in terms of even our own little resources. Let us raise it. If we have 100 naira, let at least get the benefit of at least 98 naira or thereabout. If we do that, that will be equivalent to more than tripling our current expenditures in terms of impact to the people. So we got all those nuggets as what they did, but more importantly for us, those aha moments, that's what you get when you do peer reviews. You travel to your neighbor's house. It's not that your house is not good enough, but you might see a little flower out there, how it is so well positioned. And you pick a thought and say, maybe I'm taking this home. I'm going to change the position of my own flower vase. This is what we do every day. Yesterday I was
my other colleagues have got questions for you. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Your Excellency, you referenced the local government and infrastructure and all that infrastructure work that you're doing at the local government levels. A question that I asked earlier naturally comes to mind again. There are those who are still questioning whether or not we have local government as a full constitutionally guaranteed tier of government in the country. At the core of democracy is the rule of law. And so help us understand whether or not indeed there is a constitutionally guaranteed local government authority that you feel or do not deserve autonomy to be able to drill down dividends of democracy to their people, the way we had it in the Third Republic.
Well, again, you've asked again a short question with a long answer. And let me be clear on this. Guaranteeing what we have, the way the Constitution has designed it, is one thing. But whether what the Constitution designed is efficient or the best is another question. Okay? And I don't speak from what we're trying to do in Anambra here is to strengthen the local government systems to be able to deliver the dividends of democracy. In fact, relying increasingly and largely on the local government as a mechanism to drill down much of what we're doing, be it in the area of waste management, be it in the area of even our street lighting and its management, be it in the area of managing the environment and so on. We're cascading a whole lot of responsibility that used to be done from Oka here down to the local governments to take responsibility, as it were. And we will strengthen and continue to strengthen the hands of the local government. Even the designers of the Constitution also created all manner of things to ensure that the so-called autonomy is not absolute. There is no absolute autonomy anywhere. It's also like states thinking we are absolutely autonomous of the federal government. We need to coordinate. You have one economy, you have one state, and it's how you work cooperatively. But having said that, and that is what we are doing in Anambra, in terms, like I said, strengthening the institutions of local government. I mean, local governments that were not before, you couldn't even enter them. Now refurbish them, people are getting back to work, even biometrics to get people. Workers are going to work once again, delivering services, and the local government supervising about 17,000 street lighting projects now going on simultaneously in all parts of the state. And like I said, I believe that we need to strengthen the local government. But let me answer one major thing, and that is about the status of local government. Quite frankly, you talked about the Third Republic or the Second Republic, but I go back to the First Republic, and you go back to other federations around the world. I don't know any other federation in the world where the federal structure, the Constitution, creates the local authority, creates a third federating unit. The way it is enshrined in our Constitution is as if you have three federating units: the federal government, the state government, and the local government. No, the issue of local government should be a matter for each of the federating units to decide what type of local government does it want. To impose this unitary common local government system all over the country and so on and so forth. I don't think, this is Soludo speaking now. Forget about being governor or whatever. And I have spoken about this way many years, written on the back page of this day about it. And in the Igbo agenda on the restructuring of Nigeria, we also stated that forcefully as the Igbo agenda on our own position, Southeast, on the restructuring of Nigeria, that the local government as is in the Constitution should be exercised. Each state, each federating unit should decide on the kind of local government structure that it wants. In my state, for example, we might decide that the local government structure that works, that delivers directly to the people, is the community government. We might decide that. Another state might decide otherwise, and so on and so forth. So you have two federating units, as in every federation all over the world, and then the federating units now decide on the local. The local structure that you find in California is probably not the same one in Maine or in Texas, as the case may be. So there are three issues you raised in one. First, should we strengthen local institutions as vehicles for delivering democracy dividends to the grassroots? Absolutely yes. Are we doing that? Absolutely yes. But there's a bit of the other one, which is the Constitution itself. And I want to say, with all due respect, that if we have to have that conversation, I've just reeled out to you the position of the Southeast with regards to the issue of the Constitution, the local government in our Constitution.
You know, Your Excellency, your position is bound to elicit another round of debate, and I wonder how sustained it will be. But let's manage our time, and I want to warn you, this is a two-in-one. First of all, there are reports that suggest that the Rwanda Retreat was sponsored only to the extent that the UNDP paid for conference costs, facilitators, and the venue, that the governors actually had to bear the cost of their hotel, their aids, and their transportation. Please confirm or debunk that. Also, the administration, the president said at the NBA conference that it's not sustainable to be servicing debt with 90% of revenue. Does anything in the administration with 48 ministers suggest that there is a commitment really, to balancing it out, by servicing debt, with capital and recurrent expenditure not suffering? Is there anything that suggests the commitment of this administration to that? Let's benefit from your experience as former CBN governor on that one.
Thank you very much. I think you are really prepared this morning. Well, I think, the first part of it is the easier one, which is about the payments. Coincidentally, I happen to have been there, and I must admit, I happen to be one of those who suggested and felt that Kigali was a better place to do this. And I'm very glad that all our colleagues, everybody felt this was fantastic, and this was a great choice of a venue to do that. Second is that, coincidentally, I didn't spend a penny. I went with one aide of mine, and we didn't spend a dime. Flights, I just walked into the airport, booked. They booked for me and my aide, and then we flew in there, stayed in the hotel, and checked out, and nobody asked me for to pay. I did not spend a dime because I didn't even have a chance to go anywhere else other than the structure, because it was very intensive. 3 days, from first thing in the morning till night. It ended each night again with walking dinner, either with the government officials or with their private sector. And then the third night with the president, where we spent about 4 hours with the president himself, and so on. So that wasn't even, I did not spend a dime, not one penny, except when we went to the genocide memorial. And they told us, after all the tour, they told us, maintaining the memorial was strictly on charity. And if anybody felt like he needed to support it, there's a basket there, you could go and drop something there, and so on. It's so nice. So if you felt like anything, if you have a loose change or whatever thing, you could go and drop in the basket. And I think some people felt, with the tears in their eyes, went to drop something there. Other than that, all expenses paid. So that's given with that. Now, with regards to the macroeconomics of this country, the macroeconomy, that's probably a subject for a whole program. And okay. I only need to say to you, and in empathy, and commiserations for the economic team of the president. This government inherited, from a macroeconomic standpoint, I would say, an economy the economy was like a dead horse, but standing in macroeconomic terms. And, modeling through this over the coming months will be bumpy, no question about it. But I am glad that at least the first salvos have been, shot by the president, by his courageous step to remove the obnoxious scam that has festered over the years called petrol subsidy, and then dealing with the exchange rate. you have to realize the legacies. This what you just narrated happened to be some of the legacies that the government met in terms of high debt service to revenue ratio, ways and means advances. Literally, the government, the past administration, printed over 22 trillion naira and poured into the system, backed by nothing. And so now you got to grapple with that, the high inflation, the impact on the exchange rate, and all the disruptions. But I am willing to give the government the benefit of the doubt. They've just set up a team. I believe that the economic team will get cracking on this. And every Nigerian should then offer whatever support and advice that we can. This is our country. We have no other.
As a matter of fact, Prof, we will look forward to at least having a lot more of those conversations with you moving forward about the economy, because it needs all the confidence boost that it can get. So we'll see how we can work that out with you so that we can have at least a lot more time to talk about the economy and get suggestions and ideas from any and everywhere will always be important. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, Governor of Anambra State.